99% of the time I see a LinkedIn post flop, I can attribute it to a weak hook that makes the reader scroll right past. This video will help you change that. I'm Christian, the founder of HatTip. We're a B2B content agency that's helped over 40 startup founders and agency owners generate leads from LinkedIn. And we do this by writing high quality content for them that makes the reader stop, press see more, and eventually book a call. This is the exact methodology we use to help Eli Rubel go from nothing to generating 14 booked calls in 24 hours, as well as 80% of his company's overall pipeline coming from his social. Or Nick Abraham, who books 700 calls per year off of posts that we write for him. Or Tyler Leber from Coconut, who generated $65,000 in attributable revenue from just 60 days of us writing his posts. There isn't some secret sauce or algorithm hacks that let us do this, but instead there are frameworks and methodologies you can replicate to see the success on your own. So, in this video, I'll break down the 3 hook writing techniques we use to make readers stop and press see more on hooks. This will help your posts stop the scroll, generate engagement, build trust, and eventually book calls. Most founders think content doesn't work for them because their content isn't insightful enough or isn't valuable enough. That's nowhere near the case. The real problem happens before anyone even reads the content in the first place, because even if you have deep content, LinkedIn doesn't reward that depth if no one presses see more on the hook. That means even the best content on the platform gets buried if the hook doesn't create a good enough curiosity gap. Stick around for the rest of this video and you'll never have this problem again. Technique 1 is authority plus specific numbers. Truth is, generic claims like "I've been in sales for 10 years" don't really do anything for credibility on the platform. Everyone's been in sales for 10 years. Truth is, the feed is super crowded, which means you need to do everything you can to stand out early and often. And a great way to do this is using specific numbers that build your authority in line 1. Really, you build authority with numbers or figures related to time, money, or volume. Time might be, "I spent 15 hours dissecting XYZ strategy." Money might be, "We spent $5 million on Facebook ads last year. Here are our top 5 learnings." Our volume might be, "I sent 10,492 cold emails last week. This template booked us the most meetings." Let's walk through some real posts that do this really well. This post from People Agile is a great example. He starts with, "I surveyed 50 B2B SaaS CMOs." First, the sheer number alone stands out. 50 B2B SaaS CMOs, Peep's audience would care what 50 B2B SaaS CMOs have to say, and that's the point. But Peep wasn't done there with the authority. He built it further. And he did so by sharing the $50 million to $1 billion plus in revenue number. This is what takes a 7 out of 10 hook to a 10 out of 10 hook. He used a volume figure here and a financial figure here to stack authority twice in one line. Here's another one from Alex Vaca who does a very similar thing very well. First, he says, "I wasted $150,000, which alone is strong enough to stop the scroll." But then he goes further to say, "Testing 100 plus AI sales tools so you don't have to." Here he uses the volume number, but also implies that he's saving you time or saved you time with this post. But, and if you're noticing a common theme here, he wasn't done there. He stacked the authority by promising the 25 tool stack that took them to $6 million of ARR. Obviously, the $6 million of ARR is doing a lot of heavy lifting here. By the way, Alex is a great hook writer. Strongly recommend you check out his content. Here's another one from Eli Rubel who uses a financial figure as well as a profit margin figure to build authority. Most people reading this post didn't generate $4.2 million of EBITDA in any year. This alone builds Eli's authority within the post. Beyond the $4.2 million though, what's arguably more impressive is the 67% profit margins Eli was able to generate. For context, Eli has a services business, which makes this extremely impressive. Here, Eli goes on to create tension by saying, "But my close mentor told me I was too profitable and actually choking the business. Turns out he was right." This is a bit more of an advanced tactic, but it is worth noting. By the way, I'm pulling these hooks from our full free swipe file, complete with hooks, URLs, and templates for each hook. Click the second link in the description and you can have this exact document. The second technique is story-based openers. Truth is, in certain cases, you might not have flashy numbers or authority to build, but everyone has stories. Let's compare 2 versions of the same hook for you to see which one is more engaging. Here's a made-up scenario. Let's say you want to write a post about a mentor telling you that you should be screening for IQ in candidates when you're hiring. A hook that isn't story-based might say, "Turns out, screening for IQ is a great way to find talent." I'd give this a weak 4 out of 10. It doesn't really give the reader a reason to stop and press see more. But what if you turn this into a story, where you promise something and create a curiosity gap strong enough, but you don't pay it off till later in the post? That might look like this. "I thought screening for candidates was rude and off-putting." Start with a strong sentence with some negativity bias. "But something happened last week that broke my frame completely. Now I'll never go back." The idea here is the reader is going to be thinking, what is that something? Which would obviously later be revealed to be the IQ testing. Again, you can do this left and right. Let me show you some real examples. Here's one of my favorites from our swipe file. A CEO friend of mine just shut down his startup after 12 years. Notice the authority, by the way. He raised over $30 million in VC, more authority, and the co-founders' families put in $2 million, more authority. In 2017, he tried to hire me saying they'd soon be worth $1 billion. I was shocked at what he said when I turned him down. Most rational people reading that hook would want to read on to learn what he said when he turned him down. And that's the point, and that's the power of story. On to the last and arguably sneakiest method to generate scroll stopping hooks. It's called borrowed authority, and you've seen it all over LinkedIn. Borrowed authority is when you lean on the brand name of someone or something much more recognizable than you and add some value around it or them. This is best shown with some examples, so let me show you. Here's a great post from Dennis on Elijah. Dennis owns a web design agency and also invests in some other businesses. Ramp, which is obviously a multi-billion-dollar company, is obviously much more well-known than you, myself, Dennis, and most others on LinkedIn. So Dennis starts this hook with Ramp is worth $7.5 billion and the reps still cold email me multiple times per month. What they know that you don't. This post clearly won for him, and I would argue the hook was a huge reason why. Can you imagine he just said, here's what a good cold email looks like? That wouldn't make you, me, or the 245 other people who liked that post stop at all. But leading with the Ramp name does make people stop, which is the point. Here's another one from Erbil, who's a B2B SaaS founder. He starts with Netflix lost 1 million subscribers from April to July 2022. Since then, the valuation has grown by over $130 billion. What I want you to notice here is that it blends storytelling with borrowed authority to create a wonderful hook. The Netflix name is world-renowned. Combine that with the losing of 1 million subscribers and the growth of over $130 billion of market cap, and you have a wonderful hook. And as a result, it's performed fairly well for him as well. Here's another one Erbil did really well. He says, the best managing director I used to work with, which, by the way, alone is great borrowed authority because he uses the MD title, but he goes a step further. He says, at BCG had this 10x rule to set himself apart. Here's how it worked. BCG is one of the world's most prominent consulting firms and is obviously known worldwide. Borrowing that authority to tease this 10x rule did wonders for the hook. To illustrate the difference, imagine this hook just said, my old boss had this 10x rule to set himself apart. That obviously would not hit nearly as hard. Before I let you go, let's cover what's arguably the most important part of this video. What most founders get wrong when they try writing hooks. Because let's be honest, these techniques aren't even that hard to use. But 99% of founders watching this video are going to default back to forgettable openers. As a result, their content's going to tank and they're not going to get any pipeline, and then they're going to be wondering what went wrong. Some of the more common mistakes I see founders making are as follows. Number one is worrying about sounding too informal. I'm not saying to be all willy-nilly and writing like you're texting your buddies. I am saying your hook should not read like a Q4 earnings report. Write like you talk, and that's that. Number two is trying to focus too much on what they want to say and not what makes others curious. There's a time and place, i.e. later in the post, to say what you want to say and get across what you want to get across. But your job in the hook has nothing to do with that. Your only job in the hook is to make the reader stop, press see more, and continue reading. And you do that by implementing everything I said in this video. By the way, if you want to see how these LinkedIn hook frameworks will work for your content specifically, I'm offering free account audits this month. I'll review your most recent posts, identify where your hooks are lacking, and even write a few more for you to get you set in the right direction. Click the first link in the description below. I'll see you in the next video.